right now. Yes, so the session will be recorded, and we are going to be talking about learning a plant-based lifestyle for families. My name is Livia. I am a designer and a MiB volunteer in Helsinki, and I'm a mother of a 3-year-old boy and a 5-month-old baby. Yeah, our family is not a vegetarian, but we want to gradually shift to eating more veggies, and we do have some challenges, especially coming from Brazil, where I grew up. We have a different culture. Meat is every day on our everyday meals and is considered the star of our food. So it's difficult to start thinking of vegetables as the stars and not the co-stars, if you get what I mean. Yeah. So would be lovely to learn some tips how to change that mindset. Co-hosting today, we have also MiB volunteer and mom, Veera Becker, who will share with us her story of becoming a vegetarian family. That's quite interesting. And all the way from US with a 10-hour difference in the time zone, we have our guest speaker, Liana Francisco, with her incredibly inspiring story and also her expertise as a food entrepreneur and a plant-based lifestyle mentor. She coaches mothers all over the world into this topic. Feel free to ask questions while we go. And in the end, we will have some reserved time for a discussion and more questions after Liana's presentation. We hope you enjoy it. Veera can share her story now for us.
Hi everyone. So can you hear the baby crying? So as you can hear, I'm at home, as many people at the moment probably are, and I'm glad to be attending this webinar today, and lovely to have you, Liana, here presenting your ideas right from the US tonight. So I'm a 36-year-old master's and I did my master in economics, and currently I'm on a maternity leave from my job. I work at CGI, where I'm a business analyst in the pension sector, and I'm a vegetarian. Surprise, surprise. I started leading a vegetarian life, so to say, when I was 16, so in high school. And the main reason for that was probably peer pressure. I was attending a high school where like 70% of the pupils were girls or women, and you just saw this huge request for the vegetarian food in the school cafe, and I just wanted to try it out, and the food was actually better than the meat option, so I decided, why not do this? And as the years went by, I started to make my own dinners at home, and when I moved on my own, I just continued making the vegetarian food. And it was easy at the university to buy a cheap lunch and get a very fulfilling and a nice meal every day, or twice a day if it was a long day at the uni. I met my husband, I think it was 10 years back, and when we moved together a couple of years after starting to go all together, we needed to make a plan on how to eat at home. And as we wanted to lessen the amount of housework, my husband, now husband, then boyfriend, started, he became vegetarian, but only at home. Outside of home, he would eat anything and everything he could get, like meat, intestines, and anything. And he's a very curious person, so he always tries out new foods when he has the chance. Well, years went by, and everything was all right in that sense. But then I fell pregnant, and when we had our first baby, Jasper, 3 years back, we needed to think about what to feed him. My husband was a bit against the idea of becoming a wholly vegetarian family, so he wanted to introduce meat to our son. And I was not so pleased about that idea. I really had to convince him that we could make this work out at home, and especially when we're out and about or visiting family. My husband's main concern, I think, was that our son would be bullied if he would be a vegetarian. And we tried to work out ways how to go through these situations, that if we went to see our relatives who are meat eaters, we would bring some of our own food with us. And at the daycare, at least in Finland, they do offer a vegetarian option, so that was a good piece of knowledge at that time, so we could go forward with the idea of becoming a fully vegetarian family. And yeah, it all turned out very well. So my firstborn, so Jasper, he really likes his veggie meals, and we eat twice a day at home. And also now that we have the 9-month-old baby, he started baby-led weaning. So he started sormiruokailu, so he also likes his beans and anything and everything I make him. And now I really find it time-saving that we only have to make one type of a meal every day. So if my husband would have gotten his way, we would have to make 2 different meals a day, and I think that would be too much. Yeah. And also a point of doing this is also to set an example, as we don't have any family friends who have the children at the same age who would be vegetarian. But many of the adults are eating more and more vegetarian foods. So I think now, as we have the more better options, a huge variety of different meat substitutes, the world is going to change, and everyone will start slowly to eat more vegetarian. So I think it also gives me a good conscience of doing this.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question, Veera?
Sure thing. Yeah, go ahead, Liana.
How does your husband feel now about it?
After
all these years?
Fine, because everything that he had imagined, like it being too difficult or our son being bullied, these nightmares haven't come into reality. And now that we have a good routine of preparing dinners and how to prepare food or let everyone know what we can have before going for visits, for family visits or to see friends, everything has worked out great. So yeah, just that we didn't need to have the discussion with our youngest son.
And the world's changing, as you said, as your family's growing, it's changing around you, so it's becoming more and more acceptable.
And there has been a great adjustment in my husband's mindset as well, that now that he has been working from home for since March, he has only eaten vegetarian now that he doesn't go to the workplace and have the meat options there. So also his taste has become, grown more into eating vegetarian. So now that when he has had the chance to have meat since COVID, he hasn't hasn't wanted to. Yeah. So yeah, so that's all. Long story short. Short for now. So does anyone have any questions? If you have, you can write them down in the chat now or later.
I have a couple for you, but I'll wait till we're through into the certain sections in the talk, because I think that'll be helpful to spur some conversation.
Yeah. All right. So
Okay, you can go ahead, please.
All right, you're ready for me then. Great.
Yeah.
Livia, if you want to stop sharing your screen, then it will be really easy for people to see the
yes, right.
Yeah, so they can make whatever view, the gallery view, or, you know, I know everyone's probably so experienced with Zoom by now, but if you go up in the upper right-hand corner, there's the view button, and you can change to speaker view if you want to see my face bigger, however you guys like to do it. I know for me, I always like being able to focus on the person, and it took me a while to figure out how to do that. So that's how to do it. So I'm so grateful to be here today. This is such a cool opportunity to be talking to a whole group of women that are, you know, on the other side of the world. I'm in Olympia, Washington. So, you know, that's near Seattle, kind of a few hours away from Seattle, just below Canada, on the furthest west coast of the United States. And we have a, you know, weather that's not like yours. It's incredibly temperate, but it's raining all the time. It's still dark outside here, so I have my shades drawn and everything. But I just want to thank you guys so much for being here. And I'm just so excited. Thanks for reaching out. LinkedIn, right? That's how we found each other, is LinkedIn. We'll talk more about that in a moment, too, how powerful that platform has been for me in making connections over the last few months. So let me just introduce myself. My name's Liana, as you guys have said, and I am a mom. I have a 3.5, almost 4-year-old little boy who is also 100% plant-based. I'm married. I've had the same partner for 20 years next week. Super awesome. And I have had this amazing journey of plant-based eating, of other non-traditional aspects in my life that I think have allowed me to sort of do this weird thing of plant-based eating. I love how Veera was saying that, you know, people are so worried about being different, right? And I think I've had this big leg up on that, because for me, I mean, I have a lot of non-traditional aspects about myself. For example, I never went to school. All growing up, you know, in the United States, homeschooling is something that's an acceptable thing that's done here. And I was something called unschooled. So I literally never went to school, and I didn't have any traditional schooling. So I ran around with my friends and my brothers, and then I went to college when I was 16. So we can talk more about that on another call, I'm sure, at some point. But it sort of prepared me to be able to think about the world a little bit differently and allow myself to be a little bit weird, right? So I actually came to this vegan, plant-based lifestyle through illness. So about 15 years ago, I started getting sick. And I got progressively sicker. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I would ignore it because symptoms would come and go. I was in my, you know, early 20s, so I didn't really think much of it. But I began to get sicker and sicker and sicker, and it felt like autoimmune disorders. My muscles would hurt. I had fatigue. I had brain fog and joint pain and all sorts of odd symptoms that didn't seem to go together. And finally, one day in 2010, I finally went to the doctor for it. And they told me that I had Lyme disease, which is a bacterial infection that you can get from like being bit by a tick or another vector like a tick. And I didn't know that I'd ever had that happen to me, but I got progressively sicker in that time period in my life. And I didn't know why. And at the time, it was kind of a hard thing to treat. They didn't really know how to treat it. And so you just went on a lot of antibiotics and just sort of hoped you got better. And a lot of people don't get better from it. They just continue to live in this chronic illness state. But I took that opportunity through desperation, really, because there was nothing else for me to do. The doctors didn't know necessarily how to heal me. So I just began to get cracked open to figuring out what wellness would look like and what health could look like regardless of my situation. And so that created a lot of new spiritual development for me. It created it helped me learn that my body is actually just one element of my health, but that what I feed my body and the exercise and all of that is also impacted by my my mental health. You know, if I feel well, if I'm happy, if I'm living in alignment with the things that are most important to me, am I living my values? These are all important aspects of health. And so through that, I began to study Ayurvedic medicine, which is like an ancient Indian way of feeding yourself and living and healing from illness. And that isn't a vegan diet, but between Ayurveda and plant-based eating, I began kind of my own way of doing things. And along with all sorts of spiritual breakthroughs, like just accepting where I was at and releasing the fear of being sick, I began to get better, and I began to get better really fast. And so now, 2021, I'm not a sick person, and I haven't been a sick person for a long time, like not for like 5 years. And so it took me 5 years of, healing, actively healing and trying to figure it out, that I got there. And a huge element of that was plant-based eating, and the fact that plant-based eating was actually the aligned choice for me. And it's not, I learned that for me and for most people, it's not okay to have one ideal and live something else. If you have an ideal and you make a different choice every day because it feels hard to get to that ideal, then you're never going to achieve health or success goals or relationship goals or happiness, what we consider to be happiness, because you're out of alignment with your own self. So I know a lot of people these days are inspired to plant-based eating, but they just don't know how to make it happen. And that's why I threw that little tidbit in there for everybody, because I think it's really important to begin to understand that we are whole, and we have to integrate our wholeness into how we live. So that's like the big high level version of me, but also I work as a management consultant, a project manager on information technology projects and leading consulting companies. That's how I made most of my money during the last 15 years of being a grown-up. And then I also, a couple of years ago, I purchased a deli, and I made it a totally plant-based vegan deli. That closed during the COVID time because, things have really been locked down. And obviously, I'm sure people know the American economy has taken crazy hit in this time frame. But it's actually was a blessing in disguise for me, because now I'm doing this new thing, which is working with moms, coaching. I mean, I've been coaching throughout the years, but now I'm doing it more seriously rather than just one-off here and there throughout the years. And I am just enjoying this new way of juggling being a mom and working as an entrepreneur and still eating the healthy food. So let's talk about that for a minute, because I love to cook. Obviously, I bought a deli. I love to cook. But I got so sick of spending hours and hours in the kitchen creating these beautiful homemade meals. And that was the only way I knew how to do it. This whole time, I would look at those vegan bloggers and vloggers, and I'd see their beautiful websites. And my first thought was, I'm gonna make food just like that, and my kitchen is gonna be full of those fresh vegetables, and we're gonna have this, beautiful meals all the time, which is wonderful. But all of those beautiful meals, they take a lot of time. They are not simple. They might have 4 sauces, and I'm sorry, that is not weeknight food, right? So for me, it was really important for me to figure out how to continue to eat healthy food, no matter what, non-negotiable. That was critical to me. But I had to get out of the grind of cooking for hours every night and cleaning up for hours every night. It just was no longer sustainable. So I've taken time to build this new way of doing things, which is a combination of meal planning, having freezer meals, and also making sure that everything is simple as simple as it can be. So let's talk for a minute about what I mean by plant-based and what people mean by vegan and vegetarian. So make sure we're all on the same page for terminology. So for me, plant-based means that you eat a plant-based diet. So you choose to only eat foods that are made from plants. So no foods that are made by animals or by their bodies, or for either whether it's from killing the animal or from just taking their secretions, like dairy or eggs. So it's no eggs, it's no fish, it's no meat, it's no dairy. That's really what it means, but it's everything else. Now that's just with eating. Now, people that identify as vegan actually are, they also live a lifestyle that precludes them from using animals in their like clothing or household wares or cosmetics or anything like that. So my family actually, we do live a vegan lifestyle. So we do our best to not use any animals or things that animals have created in any aspect, not just in the food that we eat. Now, generally, vegetarians mean that they don't eat animal flesh, but usually it means that they eat eggs and dairy. And so, Veera, I'm wondering if that's your definition of vegetarian as well.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I eat dairy and eggs.
What about fish? So I know some cultures will call you vegetarian if you eat fish too.
No, we don't.
No fish.
Yeah.
Okay.
The definition of vegetarian here in Finland is mostly, the lacto-ovo veggie.
Yeah.
So,
okay, got it. Yeah. So, all right. So that makes good sense. Thank you for answering that. I just want to make sure that maybe that meant vegan for you guys. I'm not sure. Cross-culturally, we have such different expectations of what that means. So, what are some of the things that you guys think of when you think of the challenges of being vegan and vegetarian? If you want to put that in the chat box, that would be really awesome, because I'd love to hear some of those things. Because, I heard Veera say, maybe concerned that your kid might be bullied, or concerned about how you're going to handle things with family members. So if you could put some things in the chat. I know people are worried about nutritional elements, or maybe just difficult trying something new. So go ahead and put those things in there. And as you guys do that, I'll talk for just a moment about the fact that my 3.5-year-old is vegan. He has a vegan lifestyle as well as a full plant-based diet. So keep entering your chat things about what you think of about the challenges of plant-based or vegan eating. And I will talk about that for a moment. So for my son, he has been vegan since, not quite since he was born, because I adopted my son. So I adopted him when he was born on Monday, and I met him on Thursday, and he came home with us on a Friday. And perfectly healthy, little, beautiful, bouncing baby boy. And we have an amazing relationship with his birth family. And he started out eating a milk-based formula at the hospital. And as soon as we got him home, we started very slowly transitioning him to eating a vegan formula, baby formula. And this was something that we put a ton of research in, a ton of thought into, and it's been amazing. He's like the healthiest little boy that we know. And the things that we were concerned about was, obviously, we knew that nutritionally it was 100% healthful and the best option for him to be vegan, but we didn't know how hard it would be socially, like Veera brought up. Like, obviously, like socially, that can be something that is really scary. Are people going to think that we're weird? Are we going to have to pack our own food for the rest of our lives, like every time we go somewhere? But my husband and I had already started setting this example of being vegetarian and being vegan. We've been vegetarian since my super early 20s. So I think I was maybe 2005 is when I became vegetarian, and then I became fully vegan. It's hard to know because there was some transition there, but I would say probably 2011, maybe, I guess. But what I want to say from it is we've been setting this example for a long time. And actually, my parents have a story of veganism from before I was born. as well, and then stopped through most of my childhood. But in this time frame, our family, through our influence and also the fact that culture's changed, as we already talked about, my parents who live in our community are both vegan, as well as my husband's parents who live in our community. They're also vegan. And so that's, you know, two sets of grandparents for my son. And also we have quite a few friends that are vegan, or if not vegan, they have a deep understanding of the principles of veganism and of what are vegan foods and what aren't vegan foods. We also eat a gluten-free diet, which is a really important thing to talk about as well. It doesn't have anything to do with veganism and plant-based diets, a totally different thing, but we find that it makes us feel healthier as well. So let's talk for a minute about some of these chat things. Livia, did you want to read some of them, or Veera? I forgot which one of you was going to do that.
Yeah, it's there. I can read out some of the questions here. Thanks for the comments.
Yeah.
Rabia says that good tasting plant-based meals are really difficult to cook.
Okay, yeah.
And it takes long and needs a lot of different ingredients. So that's something that is seen problematic. And
Yeah.
I agree to that. So when you start looking into a new diet, everything usually seems quite difficult and uneasy and expensive. Before you use the product, etc.
So I love that. Those are. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's so hard on Zoom. So let's address that for a second, because that's exactly what my first assessment of it was. It's like, oh my God, this is going to be hard. And there's like a million sauces and a million different ingredients. And it's also a whole new way of doing things, like learning new skills in order to cook this food. And that's the way I approached it for years, like until I had a kid and I had the time to do it. So I would spend all my time cooking, and dang, like I got really good at it. And like I was able to have like amazing recipes at this deli that are just thriving. I have another business where I sell vegan breakfast sandwiches. And so, I mean, I created some amazing skills from it, but that is not the way that we eat on a day-to-day basis, because it is too much work. So this myth that vegan food to make it tasty is a lot of work isn't true, but it is what a lot of the recipes that are out there are presenting to you. And that's actually I have a little freebie for you guys today, which is a meal plan guide. That's a week of easy plant-based meals for families. And it has 7 recipes in it, plus 2 more little bonus recipes. And they are so simple. They are so simple. They are so simple. Now, I will say that there's 2 elements. One is that in order to make plant-based food have a lot of layers of flavor, that's true. Like there are a lot of spices and things that you want to incorporate to layer those flavors. And the second piece is that your palate will change over time. So we have this expectation of a lot of salty, fatty, flavored foods, and like that umami flavor that is part of meat. And over time, we will stop desiring that or expecting that on a regular basis. And it will allow you to be able to have a simple bowl of beans and rice and beautiful salad vegetables and like one awesome sauce on top of it, and just eat that and enjoy it and enjoy the flavors. Because a lot of us, when we're eating meat and takeout food and stuff, our palates are expecting just that meat flavor. And when we don't get it, we're disappointed. But when we cleanse ourselves from that flavor, then we stop expecting it all the time, and the other flavors begin to pop in different ways, and we start noticing more complexity in food and flavor differences in food. So we can our palate can begin to appreciate those simple foods easier. So it's 2 elements. One, you can make it a lot simpler than a lot of the vlogs and recipes suggest in the beautiful vegan cookbooks. And the second piece is that your palate will change over time to desire and enjoy the more simple vegan foods. The other thing is the expense that was mentioned. And it's 100% true. Like all those vegan products that are coming out, the meat replacements and dairy replacements, those things are expensive. expensive. They're super expensive here. They take a ton of manufacturing time. There's a ton of labor in them. So these companies have to charge a lot of money for them because they wouldn't be able to produce them and bring them to market otherwise. My principles on that and what I try to teach other folks is that it's really important to not eat those on a regular basis. They tend not to be as healthful as good whole foods. They're processed foods. They're wonderful transition foods, and they're wonderful special occasion foods, but they are not required at every meal. And in fact, the way to actually achieve health goals and sustainability goals from plant-based eating is to eat simple food as much as possible. And that means unprocessed whole foods. And those are as cheap as food comes. Those are the cheapest foods available. Are there more questions?
Yeah, let's see. Julia mentioned said that the plant-based can get quite expensive in Finland, which we just covered.
It's totally that way here too.
Yeah, so the meat alternatives are expensive, more expensive in the kilos than beef.
Yeah, and we don't eat them. I don't buy meat alternatives.
Yeah, we do use them quite a lot actually, because they are so easy to
and they're
make.
Taste
for kids, the adults. So yeah.
One quick comment I would add about this matter of being expensive. For example, in my culture in Brazil, vegetables are much cheaper than meat. It's just so available and easy because of the weather and so on, and we have everything grown inland. But still, vegetarianism is not a big thing. So
because it's cultural.
Really yes, is it really up to prices? That's also a question I have.
Yeah. What's really the motivator? Is it just a way to be like, oh, it's too expensive? Or is it actually the reason why you're not able to make that choice? Yeah, good point.
Great stuff. Anna's comment is, she says that making sure of having diverse and nutritionally complete, or almost at least nutritionally complete meals.
Okay, I will actually address that in a minute because we're going to talk about that specifically.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So let's cover that up later. Julia has something that she calls a weird question. She says that they order their groceries online once a week, but her problem is that the veggies tend to go that fast.
So I will talk about that too. Yeah.
Meals so that you get a very balanced diet throughout the whole week.
I love that. That is so good. So that's something that, let me go ahead and address that one right now. Sometimes I address it later in the presentation, but it goes to meal planning, to really solid meal planning. So when you're thinking about your meals for the whole week, I have that problem too. Even without me ordering online, I try to go to the grocery store only once a week. And so I make my meal plan for the week, which we'll talk about in a moment. But when I do that, I think about the vegetables, the fresh veg. And so the meals towards the beginning of the week when my groceries are fresh is the salads and the delicate foods that are going to go bad. So, maybe like green beans or zucchinis, or obviously salad greens. And then towards the middle of the week, I'm eating things that are heartier, like bell peppers. And then towards the end of the week, I'm eating kales and cabbages, potatoes, yams, carrots, stuff that will last in your fridge for weeks and weeks, especially if prepared properly. And I'm also eating frozen vegetables. So that's another thing too, is that frozen vegetables are 100% nutritionally sound. In fact, sometimes they're even more nutritious than the fresh vegetables that you get at the grocery store, because the way they're processed, they're picked and they're immediately frozen. And so as long as you don't overcook them when you're reheating, they have amazing nutritional density. So I plan my meals to have the food that's going to be delicate and go bad at the beginning of the week, And then at the end of the week, I'm eating hearty vegetables and frozen vegetables. Let's see, was there another big question? I can look through too. What do we got here?
Hi, so there are comments that Lidl don't deliver home, which is probably the best place to buy veggies, the cheapest one. And Erika says that frozen veggies contain more acid than raw vegetables.
Yeah, I've never heard of that. I'm going to ask a nutritionist about that. That's a really interesting point.
Yeah. Yeah, but other than that, no comments.
Good. Okay, great. Well, thank you guys so much for all of the engagement, and keep it up throughout the presentation. We want to get a ton of engagement during the call, because that's why I'm here. Like, and I want to answer the questions that you guys have. So I'm totally going to check out the thing about frozen vegetables being acidic. And let's see. Let's talk about that how to make sure that the food is nutritionally sound, right? That well-planned vegetarian diet. So I know the health organizations in the United States, they have now all said that a vegan diet is healthful for anyone in any age, all stages of life, and they say a well-planned diet. So it goes back to that thought of, like, you have to be strategic and careful to make sure that you get all the nutrients that you need. And I'm here to tell you that it's really, really easy. So let me actually go ahead and share with you. There is a doctor in the United States named Michael Greger, and he runs a website called nutritionfacts.com, or maybe it's .org, Nutrition Facts. And he has created this really cool tool called the Daily Dozen. And the Daily Dozen talks about, if you're getting all these different things, then you are going to be helpful on a vegan diet. And let me go ahead and share the screen to show you guys. I'm going to get you the link to it as well. But I just want to make sure that you have it real fast to just show you what it looks like. Here it is. Let me share that screen. Okay. So it's too small for you to be able to actually see the details of what it is, but basically, if I'll get you the link to this right now in a minute. But it's basically saying that you need a certain number of servings of beans, so that means like lentils as well. You need some fruits, you need greens, you need flaxseed, and that's because of the omega-3s in flaxseed, grains, berries, cruciferous vegetables, other vegetables, nuts, and some spices to make sure that you're getting different elements in your diet. And then he also, part of the dozen is exercise and making sure you're staying hydrated too. But this is really important to look at, because there's a lot of old nutritional data that says that you need to, like, eat beans and whole grains together in order to create a complete protein. And that's actually old information from like 20, 30 years ago, really, that said that this was important to eat in one meal, in one sitting, in order to create complete proteins. All food has protein in it. Plant foods has some of the highest concentration of protein per calorie, and you cannot go wrong if you're eating this type of food. This counts for children, this counts for grown-ups. This is healthful, and this is based on yes, nutritionfacts.org. This is based on nutritional research. Now, they do suggest, I don't know a single nutritionist that doesn't suggest that you should be on a vitamin B12 supplement if you're vegan. Really, a lot of people should be on it anyways, but if you're vegan. And then that also you should be having a vitamin D supplement, because there are certain foods that are hard to get the other nutrients out of if you're not also taking vitamin D. That's my understanding of it. So I will share this to you real fast. But this is a really cool, stop sharing. This is a really cool tool that helps you be able to see how much you need to eat. So let me give you an example of a day of what that might look like. So for example, maybe for breakfast, you would have oatmeal with frozen berries, flaxseed, diced apple, and cinnamon. You could have that for breakfast. For a snack, you could have dried apricots with some pumpkin seeds. For lunch, you could have a peanut butter banana sandwich. Does anyone eat those? We love eating peanut butter and banana sandwiches. For another snack, you could have hummus with carrots. And then for dinner, you could have a red lentil dal or soup with cauliflower and a kale and cabbage salad on the side. That is nutritionally sound. And I know that seems like maybe difficult, but oatmeal is super easy. Frozen berries, a couple things from your cabinet. Snack of dried apricots and pumpkin seeds. That's just something from your cupboard. A peanut butter and banana sandwich, or peanut butter and jam sandwich, even if you want. That's just really fast and easy. Hummus with carrots, that's store-bought hummus and carrots. And so really the only thing you're making for the day besides a pot of oatmeal is a red lentil dal with cauliflower and then a kale and cabbage salad. And that red lentil dal or other soup that has beans in it, that can be something from your freezer that you made ahead and you just dump into an Instant Pot or a crock pot or cook on your stovetop at dinner time. So it can be incredibly fast and quick for you. Any other specific like nutritional questions that we want to make sure we address, or I can point you to resources on? I just went ahead and included the nutritionfacts.org's daily dozen right into the comments, so you guys can grab that as well in the chat. So definitely enter if you have any nutritional questions. But oh, the other thing I want to tell you is I have a series on my Facebook page, which is Connect with Liana Francisco, and that is that page has a Tuesday series. I've done like 8 of them or so with my friend who's a nutritionist, and we talk specifically about nutrition and plant-based eating. And we have one on protein, we have one on B12, we have one on calcium, we have one on just a balanced diet, transitioning to it. So there's a lot of specific questions that can be answered if you have certain concerns. So I see there's a question, what about the regular allergies that rule out often some grains, fruit, and nuts? I don't know what fruits are common allergens, so I'd love it if someone says what those are, maybe apples, but definitely grains and nuts. In our area, obviously wheat is a common grain allergy. I don't know of other common grain allergies that I hear of all the time. And then nuts, obviously. Soy is a big one that people have allergies to, obviously, and some other seeds as well. And I don't ever have a problem cooking those non-allergen foods because everything's really adaptable. So if you have a nut allergy, you can usually have seeds instead. Like I've never heard of a flax seed or a hemp seed or sunflower seed allergies. So, you know, those are 3 that work really well that you can have to get all those same nutrients that you get. So there's always a way to try something new. And I do know plant-based nutritionists that I could connect anybody with that can do online sessions if you're interested in making sure that you have a well-planned diet but can't eat some of the heavy hitter foods, particularly soy. Like people think, well, I can't do it because I can't eat soy and I can't eat wheat. And they're concerned because when they look at the all the vegan meat replacements out there, they either have a ton of soy in them or they have a ton of wheat in them. And 1, you don't need any of those meat replacements, number 1. And 2, there's more allergen friendly ones coming out every day, like the brand Beyond Meat. That is gluten-free, that is soy-free. So people are, you know, the products are becoming more and more allergen friendly, but you do have to be really disciplined about your research, obviously. And then oatmeal obviously can have gluten contamination in it. And even people that have celiac can be triggered by, you know, the proteins in oatmeal. And you can just replace it with something else like buckwheat hot cereal or rice hot cereal instead. So there's always other great options. I only know one person that has like such extreme allergies to so many different things that they really struggle with the plant-based eating choices, but they also have meat allergies too. So it's just, they have some struggles in that area. Let's see. All right, so let's get into the core of what I want to talk to you guys about, which is how to do meal planning and freezer meals and simplifying your recipes. So first off, let's talk about what meal planning is. Well, I don't have a chart with me here. I like to like hold up. Oh, I know, I'll use my guide. So let me share my screen for you. This is the week of easy plant-based meals, easy plant-based family meals that I'm sharing with you guys. There'll be a link that we'll post in the comments so you can go grab your copy. And it's a complete meal plan, 100% gluten-free, 7 dinner recipes, includes 3 freezer dinners, 2 bonus recipes, and a printable to create your own meal plan. So let me show you the meal plan. Oh, here's the recipes in it. Tofu veggie stir fry, split pea soup, superfood spaghetti, weeknight vegetable soup, black bean chili, roasted sweet potatoes and chickpeas, and pancakes for dinner. These are the recipes I have for you guys. And then the super crunch salad and a cornbread, a gluten-free vegan cornbread. So this would be an example of the meal plan for the week. So you could have tofu veggie stir. So basically what I do when I create my meal plan is I sit down, I look at everything I have in my fridge, or I think about it. Usually I know well enough. I think about the vegetables I have that still need to be cooked up. I think about what's in my pantry, and I think about what's in my freezer. And I try to use all of those things first because 1, saves you money. 2, you're always turning over the stock of food that you have, especially in your pantry, so you don't have old food sitting around. And it also saves you time because it means it's a faster grocery shopping run if you have less things on your list, right? Which I love. I want this to be as quick and convenient as possible. So in addition to thinking about everything I need to, that I have already to cook for the week, I also think about what my week is going to be like. Now, it's coronavirus time, so particularly in our area, it's like, not like we're going out very much or having a ton of activities. But you know, there's different work things that have to be done, and days when I'm doing presentations like this, or you know, things that I know I have a lot of work to accomplish, or you know, just other things going on. So I consider that and think, what are the days that I have time to cook? What are the days that I'm going to want to cook? What are the days that I need things to be really fast and easy? And then I create my meal plan. And because I've implemented a system of make-ahead freezer meals, those I pepper in throughout my week based on you know, what I have going on. So here's an example. Also, this incorporates the concept I mentioned earlier about eating the fruits and vegetables at the beginning of the week that go bad faster. So the first thing I have on the list is a tofu veggie stir fry, because that's going to have a lot of fresh vegetables in it. So you're going to eat that at the beginning of the week so that your veggies don't go bad. And then on Tuesday, we can eat we can make a split pea soup and a salad, and you could add cornbread if you want, if you're in the mood to cook, or you could just have it with toast or just with the salad or crackers, whatever you want. And this one could either have been something that you made ahead and you dumped in your freezer, or sorry, you dumped in your Instant Pot or your crock pot on the stove, or it's something that you just whip up really fast. It's a very simple recipe. Wednesday night is cooking something new, which is a superfood spaghetti. Again, this has veg in it, so that's going to be, you know, towards the beginning of the week rather than the end of the week. And then there's a weeknight vegetable soup, which has hearty vegetables in it and frozen vegetables in it, which, you know, obviously if you guys aren't comfortable using that, it's super easy to replace it with heartier vegetables or you know, fresh vegetables, and move it towards the beginning of the week instead. And then I just have it, eating it with like butter toast, like gluten-free toast with vegan butter on it. And then Friday, I have, again, a freezer meal or something that you cook from scratch. But this doesn't have a lot of fresh pantry ingredients, except maybe you pour it over a baked potato. The potatoes obviously last for a long time. And the items in it are like frozen corn and canned tomatoes, things like that, that will last in your pantry. And then on Saturday night, we would Saturday or Friday would usually do a leftovers night, just sort of clear out the fridge. Like you take out all the leftovers and everyone just enjoys whatever they want to eat, and then you can clear out your fridge. You could also have takeout one night a week, knowing that you're always going to have that, or maybe you're going to make those pancakes that are in this recipe book. Something simple that doesn't create a lot of leftovers from it. And then I do have one more complex recipe that's really good for a weekend when you feel like cooking. It's a roasted sweet potatoes and chickpea sheet pan meal. So again, that doesn't have a lot of fresh vegetables in it. I mean, it does have fresh vegetables in it, but it doesn't have like the delicate vegetables that are going to wilt quickly. So that's an important element to think about is, you know, how you put this all together and make it work for you. Has anyone tried meal planning before, and what's your experience been with it if you have tried it? I'm really curious.
Hi, we actually have a meal plan that is like a 6-week rotating thing. We have it on Excel spreadsheets. And as I told you before, I prepare two meals a day, as I have both of them kids at home with me at the moment, and my husband works from home, so he has lunch with us, and then we have dinner later on after his work. But what I do is I order groceries online once per week, and then try to see what we have planned for the next week. And if I have put different items for, you know, like Monday lunch, Monday dinner, Tuesday lunch, Tuesday dinner. So I don't always follow that strictly. So life happens. So I just order the ingredients and then may swap the meals during the days. But at least I have every ingredients ready, and then I have days for, you know, emptying the freezer. So as I have leftovers, so for nights we have something to do, it's just easy to take something out of the freezer and heat it and eat it and go on.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think people love to do that, and they need that, right? And so a lot of the element that we'll talk about in a second of like is your freezer meals is basically making your own convenience foods. So you know, like what salt is in them, you know what oil's in them, you know everything in them, and that they're what your family likes to eat, and they're what you feel good about feeding your family. So that's really important, and it does not take very long. When I first heard about this concept, I was like, oh my God, that sounds like so much work, but it's so fast and easy, and I'll tell you about that. Looks like there's a couple comments.
We're actually doing meal planning with my family due to COVID. Yeah. So if anything good came from that, it's the fact that we couldn't go to the store physically, so we started ordering groceries online once a week, and that of course implies that you plan your meals in advance for the whole week. And it has worked magically well for us, because over the time we learn how much exactly we need to order, and so forth. The only problem we have is I'm apparently incapable of cooking in many days in advance. So meaning that I somehow have a problem that I cook once a day, and I would like to cook once every 3 days because there is very little time. So we like eating fresh, and I cook fresh every day. So I'm lacking the skill to plan meals that would last for 2 or even 3 days.
Yeah, I totally get that. That makes sense. It's so that's really great. I agree with the whole coronavirus thing. For so many people, they've learned kind of new ways of doing their household management, particularly their food stuff. And a big one is, for me, like we're only going shopping like once a week now. We live right next to a food co-op, and so we used to go just all the time, and we're saving so much money because we're being so much more intentional in our planning.
Exactly, and impulsive shopping, it's a big thing. And imagine how much impulsive shopping you avoid by actually just ordering stuff online. So it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, and you never just get one thing. Like you go for a can of olives and you spend $50 and stuff. It's always how it works. Like you never just get one thing. So and then I want to address the whole thing about the fresh foods. Obviously, we all want to eat like delicious fresh food, right? And that's important for our diets. And I think that the trick, and the reason for me at least why I don't want to make a fresh meal every night, or it's I don't have time. I'm not interested. I mean, I might have the time, but it's not how I want to spend my time. There's other things I want to be doing with my life. And so one of the ways that you can cook less is to actually pick foods that are delicious as leftovers, and then you're making large amounts of them. So part of that is just getting used to learning the foods that are delicious as leftovers that people are going to be excited to have as leftovers and can transform throughout the week. So like a gigantic pot of beans, a gigantic pot of rice that can at the beginning of the week be tacos or burritos, and then a little bit later it can be put into some sort of cool stir fry, and then at the end of the week you can, even if you still have leftovers, you can make a soup with all of it. So those are ways to minimize your cook time. But that's really great. Thank you for sharing those things. We have a couple other comments too. Do you suggest to switch completely to plant-based so that the taste adjusts, or is it possible to just cut down on meat and dairy as much as possible and combine it with lots of plant-based? So I almost never suggest that people go from a standard diet of meat and dairy to being plant-based overnight, especially if they're trying to do it with their family. It's rarely successful. There's two reasons why. One is that it's hard to change what you eat emotionally because food is so personal. It's a sense of safety. And particularly if you're trying to ask anyone else to do that, it has to be self-motivated. And it's an incredibly hard thing just to stop eating everything that you're familiar with eating on a daily basis. So I never recommend that. I rarely recommend that. And the second thing is actually, unless you're already eating a ton of vegetables, and I mean a ton of vegetables, and grains and beans and stuff, there's a huge fiber increase in the amount of, when you're eating a plant-based diet to get the same amount of calories. Like if you're eating beans and rice and vegetables to get the same calories of what you would have had with a salad and meat, then you are eating a ton more fiber, and your poor little tummy is going to need some time to catch up. So you guys probably know that our stomach has microorganisms that live in it that breaks down our food. Well, there's different types of microorganisms based on different types of food that you're used to eating. And so you have to eat a lot of prebiotic foods like kale, hearty whole grains, beans, cabbage, in order to create that bacteria to digest those successfully and not have a lot of gas and stomach pain. So it's, I actually do recommend that people start really slowly. I also recommend that if they're doing it with their family, that they're respectful to everybody in their family. So, there might be kids in your family that aren't interested. There might be a spouse that's not interested. And so to continue to provide a lot of options and familiar foods as you increase. So if meat is on the menu every night for your family, or dairy is on the menu every night, I would begin with just like one night a week where you guys eat plant-based foods. And then as you discover your favorite recipes, add more and more and more and more. And like, I know one family that their whole family was plant-based for years, but one of their kids still wanted cheddar cheese on certain meals. And they just provided that to them because it was a comfort thing. It was a sense of safety. And cheese is addictive, and they didn't want this person to feel steamrolled in their family. And I think that's really important. So I would really encourage a slow transition, and just know that a little bit more plants and a little less animal products every day is going to get you where you want to go. Someone says we eat the amount I think we do, and sometimes a meal I plan for 2 days is almost eaten on the first day, or we have tons of leftovers. That's just practice, and you never know. And so, oh, it looks like Mila, there you go. You got it on mute. You're good. So that's practice with knowing the right amounts to make and knowing what meals are going to just get demolished in your family. And also that's why meal plans have to be flexible. That's also why I try to incorporate a lot of frozen foods. And I don't mean like commercially frozen foods, but I mean things that I've made ahead of time that are frozen into the meal plans, because then if there does tend to be a ton of leftovers, I just don't make something else. And because it's hearty vegetables and something from my freezer, if I don't make it, it's no big deal, and there isn't a lot of food waste from it. Also, if I am making a week of just completely fresh, not from my freezer meals, I only plan to make like 3 meals, and then there's leftovers to be eaten. Okay, I'm trying to have more veggies in all foods. We have been doing green smoothies. to have a good amount of greens, but we can't go full vegetarian because we don't eat any beans at all. Talk to me, the person who doesn't eat any beans at all. Annie. If you can say more about why you don't eat beans. Okay, here we go. Yeah, why don't you eat beans? They hurt your tummy?
No, we hate them. I've never, I mean, when I was a kid, I'm from Peru, so we eat a lot of meat, but like beans and lentils and all that is part of the regular food.
Yeah.
And I just never liked them. I cried. The last time I had them was when I was 15, maybe 14, crying, and my mom feeding me. And then my husband has never got used to really eat them and doesn't prefer them. So of course I've never given to my kids.
Okay, yeah. So this is such a good comment because it shows what I was saying about how food is so personal and it's so emotional. I mean, that story is kind of an intense story, right? It's a story of, you know, kind of having it's the real emotional reaction to food, right? And that it's really important for us to understand that whenever we're starting to change the way we're eating and really understand the emotional impact that that has on us. I really appreciate you sharing that. And familiarity, we eat what we are used to eating. So, you know, I'd offer a couple things there. One is that, I mean, beans and lentils are an excellent source of health, and I would recommend it from a health perspective for anybody, but certainly you can eat other foods. And you might also enjoy foods created from beans like hummus and other ways to enjoy the nutrition from beans without having to eat them individually. That's something to think about too, is like how these can be created into other things, black bean burgers, other stuff that isn't actually like the beans just on a plate. But I would also explore the emotional hangups around not eating beans. I know for a lot of people, they struggle with both anything in their culture that they grew up with that makes them feel like they're not able to have what they want. So maybe their parents only bought certain types of food and they always wanted the other types of food. Maybe because their family couldn't afford it or they just don't like it. Or beans meant poor people food and meat meant that you were prosperous and had everything you needed. So every time they were served, you know, beans, they felt poor and that made them feel shitty about themselves. Sorry, I just started that word. But it's the truth, right? Or maybe they feel like they hate leftovers because to them, leftovers was a sign that, you know, their parents wouldn't spend money on them to buy them fresh food, or I don't know what the case might be, but we have a lot of emotional hangups around food. And then we also have preferences around food, like some things taste good to us and some don't taste good to us. And I think it's really important to be gentle with ourselves and honest with ourselves and honest about our desires. Like, what do we want? Why is plant-based eating important to us? And what stories are we willing to release in order to enjoy that? Like maybe your kids don't eat them yet just because they haven't been introduced to them, but they also might not eat them because you guys both hate them. And that feels, every time beans are presented to them, there's this energy of, ugh, gross, yuck, who would want this, right? Even if you're not saying that, we're feeling that way, right? I know for me, there's certain things that I don't like at all and my son likes, and I have to just be like, yum. And like, I may not eat them, but I have to like act like I like them to help him, right? So a really important element there to think about is just what's going on with you with it. And is it something you want to continue to carry forward, or would you like to try something new in your life?
Liana, thanks for bringing up the importance of, from what you're talking previously, freezing meals, how to support us to actually do this, reach our goals of eating more plant-based food. Could you share a little bit more about your practicalities? How do you actually freeze your food so that, you know, it's easy, and also when defrosting it, the food is still in good shape and it doesn't lose nutrients also, or the taste is good? This was a question from Julia.
Perfect. Good. That's great. That gets us right back on track. So for me, the big thing with it is you have to pick the right foods. So you can't, there's certain things that are not going to be tasty if you try to freeze them. Like you're not going to want to freeze like a vegetable stir fry and think that that's going to turn out. It won't be good. So that's not, sorry, my phone is doing something here. Turn it upside down. So you have to pick the right foods. So then actually in the guide that I gave you, there's 3 meals in there that are excellent freezer meals. And those ones all just happen to be soup type things. So my technique, I have a couple different options. One is that when you make a dish for dinner time and it's a good freezer meal, you should make 2 or 3, not just the one you want to have for dinner. And I actually have reusable Ziploc bags, but they're like silicone bags that we can reuse. And I will set a couple out, like 2 out on the counter, and I'll also have my pot. And when I'm making a soup, and so say I'm making split pea soup, so I'll chop my onions and I'll put some onions in the pot, some onions in each of the bags. And I'll do that with my celery. I'll do that with my carrots. I'll do that with garlic. I'll do that with the split peas. I will wash them and I'll put some in each one of them. So I'm basically making 3 soups at once. I add the spices and I even add the vegetable broth all the way into the bags. And then I zip it up and I throw it in the freezer. Now, I then, on the day of, I would take it out and let it defrost just enough that I'm able to like dump it into a pot, like get it out of the bag. And that would be, they call them like dump and go meals. I know that sounds so appetizing, but they're delicious. And I put it right into my Instant Pot usually because I love cooking the Instant Pots. But you could put it in the morning in a crock pot, or you could, you know, do it on the stove as well. And I then just cook it. I heat it up. So I put it probably for like 10 minutes on the Instant Pot function, and it might take an hour to come to temperature or pressure because it's, you know, been frozen. And then I also adjust the seasonings when it's done and make sure that it's super tasty still. And then I would make something fresh to go with it, like the Super Crunch salad that's in the family guide. So it's like a cabbage, kale, celery, onion salad with a really yummy dressing. So I would just have, literally, I'd open up my Instant Pot, we'd eat the soup after I adjusted any seasonings that were needed, and we'd have this big salad. And the only dinner that I would have had to make was the salad. And in fact, I usually make a big fixing of the salad at the beginning of the week, and we have the salad to go. So that's a really important element to try. I also have some casseroles that work well for my family, but I'm still testing the recipes before I share them all with you guys because they're, you know, sometimes they turn out great, sometimes they don't. So I'm getting those perfect as well. But soups, there's 3 in here that will make amazing soups for you guys, and you just adjust the seasoning afterwards. The other thing you can do besides making the extra ones as you're cooking is you can do a freezer day. So for example, I did a freezer day a few weeks ago, or actually at the beginning of December, and I made 17 dinners in probably like 5 hours. It was so easy. It was so simple because the dinners were like those split pea soups. So I would use my food processor and I would do like, you know, 6 onions and chop them for the food processor. And then I would slice like a whole thing of celery and a whole thing of carrots, a whole bag of carrots. And so I'm making all of these soups that freeze really well in one go. So it's a really important, easy skill. It's about having the right recipes. And like I said, there's 3 of them in the guide for you guys. People are having a few more questions. So one more thing that I'll say, and then we'll go just to finish with questions and answers. So simplifying recipes is the other primary principle. We've basically been talking about this the whole time, but it's really important to remember that you do not need to make the beautiful vegan lasagna every night that has 3 different sauces in it and has the side dishes and a dessert and all of the things. That is not necessary. Healthy food is simple food. So you can make a smoothie and a peanut butter sandwich, and that is an excellent dinner for your kids. That's it. That's good enough. That's good food. You can have apples and almond butter and carrots and hummus. That's dinner. That can be dinner. And so a lot of it is a mindset shift for us to allow ourselves to do something simple in our lives. Beans, rice, salsa, a bag of spinach. that can be dinner as well. So it's just a shift in how we think about things. I know, I think it was Livia at the beginning said it's hard to transition from vegetables to being the star instead of the co-star. And it is a big transition, and all it takes is commitment and practice. That's it. It just takes practice and a willingness to be adventurous, a willingness to try something new, a willingness to say, I don't really like that, but that's okay. I'll find something else that I do like, and being willing to keep going the whole time. So I think it's now time to just kind of open up to questions that people might have. Do you want me to just look through the chat, or Veera, did you want to look at it, or Livia?
Hi, sorry about the noise. It's my 9-month-old is having a tantrum. Yeah, I think there are a couple of questions we have not covered yet. So Julia asks how to safely defrost the pre-cooked meals.
You mean so it doesn't get bacteria growth,
texture and nutrition. Do you have any ideas to that?
It's for texture and safety. Was that the thought? Let's see. Okay. So the big thing is that I choose meals where the texture isn't as important. That's a really important element to understand. It's like I'm choosing meals where it's okay that it's in the freezer, like a red lentil dal that has squash in it and yams in it and some celery and some onions. So basically it's okay that all of it just turned to mush, or like a split pea soup. And it's okay that all of it is, that the onions may have disintegrated a little bit. That's all right, because the food, it's just good, simple food that is, you're going to get the other textures in other food that you're eating. So that's the big thing there is these are not precious meals. These are healthy meals that get your family fed and keep you sane. That's what this is. So that's a really important element. And then the other thing is that just to make sure I'm defrosting safely, one, that's not fully defrosted usually when I put it in my Instant Pot. It's just defrosted enough that I can get it out of my container. But if I plan ahead well, I actually put it in from my freezer to my fridge the night before. And then I can take it out mid-afternoon and put it right in the Instant Pot, and it'll be defrosted enough to get out of the bag. If I'm not able to do that because I forgot or whatever, I'll just leave it on my counter for less than 2 hours. And that's the thing that's important. It usually takes about 2 hours for any bacteria to build like that. And you have to remember that's literally on ice, right? Because it's like a chunk of ice. So it's going to stay really, really cold for quite a while. There's also no meat in here. So the bacteria is going to develop at a different rate, but you want to leave it just no more than an hour or two on the counter defrosting. Otherwise, you need to get it in the fridge.
Then there is Julia, who asks how to get the kids to eat more veggies. That is a good question.
That's such a good question. It's just practice. So, just like grown-ups don't really want to eat new foods. And if they don't love vegetables because they haven't ever eaten them very often, they're probably, they don't really want to eat them. And we all know that children tend to not be as reasonable as grown-ups, right? So one is for us to have a lot of faith in them and their ability to change and grow over time, for us to trust their instinct to feed themselves healthy food, and for us to just be very generous and loving with them and never force them to eat things they don't want to eat. That's really important to me. And the second thing is just familiarity. So you introduce them over time to foods, and you give them the time to always make sure that there's something that that they love available to them. But it's also okay to only offer your children healthy food. Now, I know this is tricky because when they've been eating maybe more of like freezer food or things that have more salt in them or convenience foods, their palates are adjusted to that. And you have to over time help them learn to feel safe eating the more natural, nutritious foods. But it's also okay to only give your children healthy foods. So now it's different because my son has been eating this way his whole life, but we only offer healthy food and he gets to eat whatever he wants and leave anything he doesn't want to eat. So for example, last night I had made like tacos for dinner. He took one bite and said, "Ooh, it's yucky," even though it was like all of his favorite foods. So I don't know what he was thinking, but he wasn't interested. And instead he just like ate snacks that he had had out. He ate nuts and seeds and an apple and a carrot and a piece of kale. That's what he ate because it was just what he felt like eating. He was pretending to be a dinosaur. So that's what dinosaurs eat, is vegetables. So he was just eating it. So, so one is just be gentle with them, give them time, feel empowered to give them healthy foods and support them in over and over again, showing them healthy foods. And there are a couple little tips. One, kids usually like raw veggies more than cooked veggies. I know very few kids that prefer cooked veggies to raw veggies. They love them raw. And they like to dip things, as you know. So make a super delicious dip that you know that they're going to like, or their favorite guacamole or something like that that they might enjoy to dip in. My son likes dipping vegetables in salsa, and he likes dipping them in ketchup. And I actually just make him tomato sauce, or I open a can of tomato sauce instead of giving him ketchup with sugar in it. But he loves that. And so something that they can dip raw vegetables into, offer them over and over and over and over again. And if you're also trying to help a kid learn how to eat salad, I would suggest crunchy salad greens like kale, like cabbage, like romaine, and mincing them. Like when I say mince, I mean like really, really small. Like chop it super, 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 super tiny, almost like an herb, and then mix in a ton of their favorite dip. And that's how you begin them with salad, because most kids don't like salad because of the texture. It's hard for them to eat. It's hard for them to chew. It gets stuck around your mouth. You know that feeling of like a piece of salad that's kind of like too big in your mouth and it's awkward and weird. So if you start with it really small, a ton of their favorite sauces, again, healthy sauces. I always make salad dressings and sauces that they can eat, just eat a bowl of it if they want to. And that is healthful enough for them to have had for dinner. So do that, and over time you can make the pieces a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. My son now eats salad that's just like chopped for regular grown-ups, and he eats a huge bowl of it. So it's familiarity and helping them over time. And it's a real thing that some kids are picky eaters, and I feel like the worst thing that we can do is force them to eat things they don't want to eat, because that just cements that idea in themselves that they're picky eaters, and that's really a hard thing to break. It also creates power struggles with you, like you want them to eat this and they want to eat that, and then they just find something that they get to win on, and that's too bad because you want them to love healthy eating, right? So that's what I would do. Oh yeah, introduce it 300 times. Exactly, like you have to just do it over and over and over and over again, and trust that they will learn to love it. They will learn to love it even if it's when they're a grown-up. You have done your job by teaching them to eat healthy foods instead of unhealthy foods. My aunt's children eat all kinds of veggies and really love them. That's because they don't get a lot of sugar. So many veggies and fruits are sweet. That's true. It's like that's kind of goes back to what I was saying about empower yourself to feel confident only providing healthy foods. And you can have conversations with your kids that are a little bit older about like, hey, we're making a shift and we're only having those things on special occasions now. And our treats are going to be treats that are made with dates and like other cool things. And we're beginning this journey as a family, and I'm really excited for it. And it's the right thing to do for our health, and let's all do it together and begin it, and then be respectful of going at their speed that they're comfortable with, and trust that it'll happen. It will happen. You just have to allow it. I guess with the soups that are frozen, it would be a good idea to make them blended. Oh yeah, I do love some blended soups, like cauliflower soups and potato soups, potato broccoli soups. You can do them in the immersion blender afterwards. The other thing with some of these soups is that you can also just make bigger batches of things that you actually cook the night of and then freeze fully leftover. So for example, I have a cauliflower soup in my freezer right now that was a fully cooked soup. That I just froze after I cooled it down, and that'll be the next thing. So yeah, pureed soups are delicious. It's also a really great way to get those veggies in you're not sure your kids are going to be willing to eat. And beans as well. If you're not a big fan of beans, I make like cauliflower or potato soups that have a can of white beans in them. And that adds a ton of extra protein and nutrients as well. Let's see. I see a kitchen gadget question. We've gotten most of the questions. Okay. What kitchen gadget things are very useful for you that make your life easier or make plant-based cooking easier? Okay, so for me, it's a Vitamix or another high-speed blender, but I love my Vitamix. They're a little bit pricey and they're 100% worth it. 100% worth it. I use my Vitamix 2 or 3 times a day. We use it for smoothies. I use it for sauces. I use it to blend soups. We use it all day. And then I also use an Instant Pot. I actually have 2 Instant Pots. I have a smaller Instant Pot that I use for grains and potatoes and stuff, for our starches. And then I have a big Instant Pot that I use for our main dishes and beans and stuff.
Liana.
Yeah.
About the kitchen gadgets, you mentioned earlier that you also use silicone bags. Yes. I have noticed that my freezer at least gets full quite fast with this glass containers.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, so where do you buy them? Do you use something from Amazon, or because I'm not familiar with them?
Yeah, you can get, they're really cool. There's I've only bought them recently because I was doing like just like Ziploc bags because I didn't realize that there was very many available. And so you can get them on Amazon. There's a ton of different brands. There's some like medium grade ones that are silicone and other apparently fully food safe, you know, non-BPA ones available for a really good price. And then there's like the fancier silicone ones that are really an investment to get. So I actually just got like the just lower grade ones that are still supposed to be fully food safe and everything. And they're working so good. And I got them because I wanted to make sure I would use them, right? I mean, how often have you gotten a new thing like that and then like you don't wash them out or whatever and they get a stink and then they don't work anymore and then you just spent like $400 on stuff. So I love them, and I actually could post or get a link or something out to the ones that I got as well. But I just did a little bit of research on Amazon and I bought a big stash of them. And I was actually just getting ready to buy some more because I find them so convenient. I also just use them for leftovers in the fridge too.
Okay. Still had one question. Oats are quite popular here in Finland. Besides breakfast, but we use them for drinks and as a meat substitute. There's a lot of like product development around that. How do you use oats, and do you have any like a very like favorite way to prepare them, and especially successful with your son? To share?
Yeah, so we eat oats almost every day. Like I can't think of a day when we don't, and that's because, you know, I've focused a lot on dinner in this conversation, but the way we do breakfast at my house is we have oatmeal for breakfast and we have leftovers for lunch. That's the scenario. Oatmeal for breakfast, leftovers for lunch. That's what we eat. And so for breakfast, my son actually, he starts out the morning with a little bowl of this like rice puff cereal, which is just puffed brown rice with raisins and some organic sugar-free soy milk. It's the only ingredients are soy milk and water or soybeans and water. And he has that. And then he has a big bowl of oatmeal, and I mean a big bowl of oatmeal, and he puts in it frozen blueberries, flaxseed, hemp seed, peanut butter or almond butter, and a little touch of maple syrup. And that's what he has almost every morning for his breakfast. And it's so tasty. And my husband and I eat it as well. I just like a little bit of almond butter and maple syrup and some hemp seeds on it. And we do that almost every day. I also used a lot of oat flour in my baking. So the other thing we eat for breakfast sometimes is freezer waffles. I have a recipe for a huge batch of buckwheat oat waffles. And so I have a big waffle iron and I make like a lot at a time. And then they go in the freezer. And so you just pop one out and you put it in the toaster. And so you have homemade toaster waffles. And those have a lot of oat flour in them as well. Cookies, we eat a lot of oatmeal and oat flour cookies. And I say cookies because they are more like a granola bar. But we do things that have a ton of oats, and we put dates in them, maybe a little bit of maple syrup or brown rice syrup, and dried fruits in them. And those are just delicious treats, and also making, you know, our own convenience food. We eat a lot of oats that way. Every once in a while we'll do savory oats, like just make it as like the hot grain that will go, and I'll just cook it just till the grains are cooked, and not till they turn mushy or anything like that. And that turns out really delicious as well. All sorts of breakfast cookies and stuff that we do with oats. It's almost always sweet stuff, though I know you can use them savory as well. We just use rolled oats. I buy a 25-pound bag of organic rolled oats from the restaurant supply store, and we just keep eating on that, and that lasts us for like 3 months or so. So super cheap too.
Wow, quite many ideas. Yeah, we have to look into those recipes to get inspired.
Oh, and I have oat milk. I have Califia oat milk in my coffee right now because I like that as my coffee creamer.
All right. I'm gonna share last slide. I just shared the links that we just talked about here with you. I shared in the chat again, so everybody can go and download the material that you prepared. And thank you so much for sharing all this expertise with us today. It was great, and thanks everyone also for the questions. Great questions, really opened up a lot. And yeah, don't forget to download your free copy of Liana's guide from the link in the chat. And if you're interested in upcoming MiB events, there's more coming in English also. In January, we have 2 more events. Just check MiB social media accounts. We have a Facebook group and also on Instagram. You can check there what's coming. That's all for now. And yeah, make sure to connect with Liana. Yes, that's how I found her, from LinkedIn, and I have been inspired ever since.
Whoa.
Yeah, so connect with her on her LinkedIn. There's the link here too in the chat, and also on her Facebook group. I'm sure that you can share more there, right?
Yes, and any follow-up questions that you all have as you're working on your guides, or even just thinking about this conversation today, or, oh, I wish I'd asked this question, or I wonder what she thinks about that, just join the free Facebook group and ask your questions right in there. I'm in it every day and connecting with people. It's there to serve. This is my favorite thing to do, is to talk with other moms about how to, you know, get freedom from the kitchen and still eat healthy food.
Amazing. Yes. So thank you everyone so much for being here. Our time is running up.
All right.
Hope
Thank you so much, guys.